Hi students, so this is our lecture number 8 and in which we are going to continue our discussion on the JavaScript. Okay, so first of all, in the last lecture, we have seen some basic informations about the JavaScript. What are the different data types are there, and how we can how we can write the functions and the things which are the basic information. You can refer to the last lecture. So today we will be talking about the objects. So object is, as you know, that if you are coming from the Java background or if you are coming from other background, that we have the class concept of the class. So the concept of the class of is also exists in the JavaScript. So represent real life objects. It has properties and the methods. Properties are the informations about that object, and the methods are the behaviors of that object or the functions of that object. So here's an example. So here we can say that we have the car as an object, and it has the property like name or the model, what is the weight, what is the color, who is the, that kind of information. And then we also have the methods, the functions that this car can perform. It can start, it can drive, it can brake, it can stop, it can reverse. So different functions. So we have properties and we also have the methods. So, for example, I just give you this. Defined whenever we are defining a object inside the JavaScript. Actually, we will be using the curly brackets, opening and closing. And inside these curly brackets, we have the key value pair. We have defined the key or the name of the variable, and then we give the value of itself. So we have a name as a property, and then Mazda is the value of that property. Model is the name or the property, and then CX90 is the name of that. And then again, similarly, we have color and the platinum white. And then name of the property, and these are the values of the properties. And then we can also access that information because we have defined a car object or the object of the car as a variable inside our code. If I want to access this name, then I can use this as a dot notation, car dot name. And then if I want to access the model, I say car dot model. If I want to access the color, then I say car dot color. So I can access the individual values of these properties which exist inside the car. We can also access these properties using the brackets notation like this. And then here in the double quotes, we can provide, or in the single quote, we provide the name of the property as a string. And then we can access this value, or we can access this value, which is the CX90 and so on. So we can access two different ways the properties or the information which exists inside the object. So here is an example where I'm also adding a function over there. So here I'm saying that we have a function. Hmm, let me. Okay. So here you can see that we have this move as a function, and then I define a function without any name inside it. It does not have any parameters, and then we are defining something here. So we are saying that car image document dot create element. So actually, it is creating a new element of the image inside the document. Of course, the HTML document, and then we are specifying the source that we want to display over there. And then we with car image dot style dot width, what will be the width or height of that one. And then we say car dev deployment dot element by id. We are getting an element with the name car dev from our element, and then adding that image inside that div. So right now we are creating here in this one, we are specifying creating a image element inside our page, and then we are adding that image element inside our div, and that will be visible on the page. So if we have this, for example, this is our function. So here we say dot car dot move. So when you say we can access that method using a dot notation, and then we can run that one. So car move is equal to car dot move. Again, we can also without the parentheses, then it means that we are creating an second name or the alias for that specific method. Okay, and then here is an example. So if you look at that, we have this car dot div, and this car.div actually an empty div, and inside the JavaScript code we are accessing this specific element, and then we are adding a car object inside it, and then we are have some animation. We apply an animation actually on this car, so it will look like it is moving. So let me show you that video. So we have this car div, and then inside the JavaScript code we have this car object, and then inside the car object we are going to execute the things. We have some, I mean, these are the information which are being displayed over there, and then here we have the keyframe and the animation that we are doing. And after that div, at here, at this place, we are actually executing this move method. So when we move method applied, so it actually display the car object inside, and then we also have applied the movement on that one, or the you can say that we have applied the animation on that, so it look like the car is moving. Okay, so that is an example, and this sample code is available in the LMS, so you can download, and then you can see that what I have done. We also have a this keyword, just like in the Java, we have a this keyword. So in this in the JavaScript, this keyword is, if we are using anywhere, if we are using inside an object, then this object will actually represent, this will represent the current object in which we are using it. Okay. So object refers to the object, and alone references to the global object. If we are not using that, this reference inside, what you can say that inside object, then this will actually going to represent a global, the global scope. So this function, in a function, it also refers to global scope. But if we are inside an object, then it refers to that object. Otherwise, it is referring to the global scope. So for example, if you look at here, so we have this dot first name. So when you say this dot first name, actually it is referring to this specific property. And then again, this dot last name, it is referring to this specific property, because we are using this inside the object itself. So this is our starting object, and this is our finishing object. So we are using this keyword inside the object, then it will refer to the properties which are exist inside that. It is representing that object. Okay, and then if we are using this one, for example, we have created this x is a global variable, and then when we say x is a global variable, and then we want to access that one, so we say this dot access. So actually it is going to access this global variable, because here when we are using this outside of any object, then this represents the global scope. Okay, or global object, which contains also the document. Then we also have the nested object. We can create the nested objects as well. For example, we have a person, and this is the opening and the closing of that object. And inside, I create another object of the name called address. And inside the address, we have a street and district and yard and so on. Okay, so this is the nested object that you can see that. We can access those objects using the dot notation. We can also use have the new object. So we are actually creating. So we say company is equal to new object. When I say company is equal to new object, it will create just an empty object which does not have anything. And then if I try to print the type of that object on the console, it will actually print me the so we are creating the objects, and then this object is empty right now, because we have not added any kind of the properties inside. And then if we are saying that we have created the object, and inside you say company dot name, and now if you look at that, this object is empty because we have just created that object. Then if I try to access a property, which, because we are saying that inside the company object we want to access the name property, and because this name property does not exist, so what this line will do, it will create inside this object a property called name and assign the value of the Facebook. Similarly, if we look at here, we say company dot country, and again this country property does not exist in the object. It will create that property inside the object and assign the value of the USA, and then we can actually we can print those informations on the console. So it will show me the Facebook and the USA for the name and the country property. It means these two lines actually has created these properties inside the empty object. So this is another way to create the new objects. So again, in the JavaScript, everything is more like a dynamic. If you have an array, you can add the elements in the array, you can delete the elements in the array, and similarly, if you have an object, you can uh, create new properties inside the object element. Okay, so name. So this is our the final shape of our object, which has the name property and the value is Facebook, country property and the value is USA. So now one more thing, because if I using the same notation company, and then inside the company I want to access the property name, then this property is actually does not exist, it will create automatically. But if I say that company.ceo dot first name, so what I'm in the same notation that we have seen before, we are trying to access inside the company, we are trying to access a property name ceo, and then if it does not exist, it should have created it. Okay, and then inside the ceo we are considering that this ceo is also another object in, or a nested object kind of a thing, and then inside that object, nested object, we have a first name, and then if it does not exist, it should create that ceo object. Inside the ceo object, it should have created the first name and the mark, but no, if you are creating the property, it will create that property. But if you are trying to create an object using the dot notation, this way it's a no, cannot set the properties of undefined. That is because it is say that ceo is not defined in the company object, and then we are trying to access another first name property inside the ceo as an object, so it's a no, you can't do that. But if you want to do something like this in the programmatically way, then what you need to create that ceo object first inside the company using the using this new object method. And then once you do that, then it will be, so first of all we are creating a new object inside the company, the ceo object, which is a nested object inside the company. And then we can say ceo dot first name, and then of course, because we have just created the ceo object, it is an empty object, and then it will automatically add this new property first name and the mark. So it will create that one. But what if I say that I want to use a space? If you look at that, there is a space between the last name, last and the name, between two words. So using the dot notation, we cannot access our properties, because we can have the properties which has the space inside it. Okay, so if we want to create a new property with the space like last and space name, then we have to use that bracket notation. So we say ceo and then last name, and again this last name does not exist in the ceo object, and what it will do, it will create a new property inside and assign the value to it. And so if you look at that, we have a first name, and then inside the last name, actually we have the space between the name of in that property. That property name contains the space, and that is again, it is different from java. In the variable names you cannot have the spaces, but here you can have. Okay, so but the problem with that, with the property names which has the space inside, you cannot access using the dot notation. You always have to use the what you can say that you always need that bracket notation to access those kind of properties. So again, these are some limitations, and here again we are creating another stock value. So it will add a new property inside the company as a stock value, and then you can see that this also has the space between that. And then when you log the company, so actually show me all the company and the nested objects and object and the nested objects inside it. Okay, any questions so far before we can jump to the string concatenation? Students, do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
No questions?
Yes.
Just give me one. So as I am explaining, that the property names with the space inside you cannot access using the dot notation. You have to use the bracket notation to access those kind of properties. So the next topic that we are going to cover here is the string concatenation. Okay, so string concatenation. So again, you know that very well from the Java. So if you want to create, we have two different strings. If we want to combine them together, we have a plus operator. And if the the values around that plus operator are the strings, and they will combine them into a one string. And so that is, I think you already know about that. So I don't need to further explain that. So we are creating a bigger string using the parts of different strings. Then we have a boolean values. So everything that is here, it is considered as a false. Okay, so if it is a false, of course it is a false. And then we say undefined. Undefined is also considered whenever we are using undefined inside a conditional statement, then it will be considered as a false. Null is also considered as a false. Zero as a number is also considered as a false. Empty string, doesn't matter if you are using a single quote or a double quote, it is also considered as a false. And then nan is also false. So everything that is written down here that is considered as a false uh, inside our conditional statement. Okay, so if this nan is a not a number. So for example, if I say that you are dividing a string divided by number 2. So of course, this is a string, this is a number. We cannot divide a string by number. The answer will be nan. Okay, the answer is nan. So that's why if we are trying to do some calculation using not the numbers, and or the one operator is operand is not number, then the result will be not a number, a value, and that will also considered as a false value. So if false, undefined, null, zero value is also considered as false. Empty string is also considered as a false, and the nan or the not a number is also considered as a false inside. So here we say that multiply x and y. If we say multiply x and y, now you could look at that. In the first one, we can call this method multiply using no giving no values inside. So here it means the x will be also undefined, y will be also undefined. When we are multiplying undefined with undefined, the result is not a number. Okay, so that's why. And similarly, when you are giving the in the second statement, when we are giving the values, that is the only one value is given, x is 34, but y is undefined. Again, when we perform some calculations on it, it will give me a not a number value. And then definitely for the last one. So here you can see what is the output of this one. First two one, it will give me nan, and the second one, it will give me the multiplication of two numbers, 34 multiplied by 2. For the true values, so everything is considered true. So it doesn't matter if you have a true value, of course it is true. If you have a non-zero number, non-zero number mean it could be any number other than zero. Doesn't matter it is a positive number or a negative number, it will be considered. So now at this place we can have infinite different type of values. If it is zero, consider false. If the number is not zero, doesn't matter it is a positive or negative, it will be considered as a true value. And then if we have a string value and then it has some information inside, it is not even a simple space. If I say this, I put a space in between and then I close it, this will be also considered as a true value. Okay, so any known empty string is considered as true, any known zero number is considered as a true, and the true value is also considered as a true here as well. So again, functions and the default values. Again, we are saying name and then we say greeting. So if we are the name and the greeting are provided, then we are going to print a message on the console. If I do this and then we look here, because in the first one we did not provide any values, so it will say undefined, comma undefined. But when you say give the name, but we didn't give the greetings, Abdul Rahman, comma undefined, and then you say Abdul Aziz good morning, so we say Abdul Aziz good morning, so it good evening. So now the problem is in that kind of a situation we can also check, we can say if this name is undefined, then what should be the value of this one. So we can also add something like this as well. And then in that case, so let me show you how we can do that. So we are saying that name is equal to name or name. So now we say if this name is undefined, it is not given, then it will automatically assign the name Abbas value to this name. If the greeting value is undefined, then it will assign the bonjour as a default value to the greeting. And if these values are given, then whatever the value is given, they will be assigned to the name properties for the name greeting variables. So here, if you say that in this case, we are printing the message Abbas bonjour. Bonjour means it is a French for the good day. And then Abdul Rahman, again, I say Abdul Rahman bonjour because the greetings values are not given. So in this way, we can overcome the problems of the not given values. So we can assign some default values using these statements. Okay. Any questions so far? No? All good? Consider it as a good. No question has been asked. So again, then we have a conditional statement, and the conditional statements we have defined the variables. If we are checking that if x is equal to double equal to y, and in this case it will show me this value. Why? Because here it is a string, but here it is a value. And remember, when we talk about the equal operators, so when you say double equal to, it will try to convert that string into a variable, into a number, and then check. So if we convert that string into a number, that is 4 equal to 4, yes, true, and then it will print that statement. But if you look at this one, then it will, we are using the triple equal to. Triple equal to mean that it will first check that the type of the variable x and the type of the variable y, they are same. So x is number, y is a string, they are not equal, it will say it is false, and then it will come into this position, and then the values of x and y as well as types are not equal, and in that is the output of this one. So we can also have the loops. They are the same. For example, we are defining a variable x, I is equal to 1, I is less than equal to 10, and then I plus plus, and then we are printing something on the console. We are printing the value of the I on the console, and then at the same time we are adding that value in the sum variable here, which has been assigned the value 0. So what happens? So it will execute this line. After that, it will come here, define this variable, then it's check this condition. If the value of the I, which is 1 right now, I is 1 is less than 10. If it is true, it will execute this line, print the I value on the console. After that, it will print the add the value of I in the sum variable. Then it will go here and it will increase the value of y I by 1, and after that it will come and check that condition. So this part, the first part, is only happened one time when if we are entering into that loop. But after that, it is does not go. It always go and check the conditions, and then it will continue this way, and then it will again go back and do the same thing here. So again, it will show me something like this. So first time the value of I is 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, then 6. And remember that we are adding 1. Sum is equal to sum plus 1, sum plus 2, sum plus 3, sum plus 4. So we are adding these value in the sum variable. So at the end, we say, and the first sum of the first 10 numbers is 55. So sum 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9 plus 10, that will result in a 55 value. Okay, so this is again, we can do the loop here as well. So we also have another, we can define a function. We are writing a multiplication table. So we are say multiplication table number. If the number is not given, we are giving the value to 2. And then we say document dot write. We are writing inside the document a div value. And then we are said let I is plus I is equal to 1. And inside that div, we are writing h2 elements. And then of course I also need to close that h2 elements here, which is not missing from here, and definitely I need to fix that in here. So I just need to do this part here, and after this one, after this I need to have an add, and so that it can, and then at the end we are closing that div, and then it will show me the multiplication table. If I execute this one, it will show me the multiplication table. If I give the value of the 5 here, for example, as a number value, then of course it will show me the multiplication table for the number 5. Okay, so these are some loops examples. Any questions, anything that you want me to explain more, or it's all good, students? No?
All good, doctor.
All good, doctor.
All good. That's good. Good to hear. Okay, so what is the next? For example, we have the person names. It is a object, and inside the object we have multiple properties: name 1, name 2, name 3. So here we are looping. We are iterating over the different properties which exist inside that object. So we say let x in the person name. So we are saying that x is some property inside the person underscore names, and then we are showing these values on the in the document. So it will show me Abbas, Muhammad, Ali, Abdul Rahman. So it is showing me these values. So what would happen the first time? This x value will be equal to the name 1. The second time, this will be x is equal to name 2. Third time, it will be x is equal to name 3. Fourth time, it will be x is equal to name 4. And then accordingly, once there is no more property, this loop will finish. Okay, so this is how we can iterate over different properties which exist inside an object. Okay, so we are looping through the properties of an object. And then if you want some more information about loops in the GS, then you can click on the JavaScript, you can click on that uh, link, and then it will give you some more examples and more explanations. So function is also an object. Again, as I told you in the when we talk about the function is also is an object. And why it is an object? So if you look at that, we have defined a function which is my function, and then my function dot version. And when you try to print that value on the console, actually it show me the function only. But if I try to access that property, that version property, which we have created inside the my function, we can access that one as well. So it is also considered as an object inside our JavaScript. Even the array is also considered as an object inside the JavaScript, and then we have seen that specific thing before. And again, here you can say that I create a new array. Of course, at this time, this will be an empty array. Okay, and then inside the empty array I'm saying that 0. So when there is a no new array and there is nothing there, so it will do what it will add. It will actually add this 56 value at the 0. So and then here we say 1. So at the 1 index value we are putting another object inside it, and then at the 2 value and the 3 value we are string and false. And then when you try to print it, it will actually print me. So at the index value 0 we have the number, at the index value 1 we have a complete object which has the name, role, height, and then we have the string value, then a false value. So you can see that inside one array we have multiple different type of values inside it. So either you do something like this, you can create some that array, the same array like this, using the bracket notation. We are putting the value, the first value is a number, the second value is an object, then string, and then false, and it will do the same thing for me. So now you do create an array like this using the new array, and then at every index value you assign a different value, or you can directly write that thing. If you already know your array, then of course this is the better way to do that. But if you don't know about the elements of your array and then you want to create it dynamically, then this is the better way to do the things. To create a new array, and then based on the values that we have, we are going to assign those values at a different index values dynamically. We are creating the array dynamically, okay, rather than writing them by ourselves inside the code. Again, array manipulation. So we can again, just like the objects, we can also iterate through the elements. So inside our, for example, I is equal to 0 cars dot length, and length it will give me 1 2 3 4 5. So this length is equal to 5, and we are saying that I is less than equal to 5, less than 5, because this index value start with 0. This is our 0, this 1, this is 2, this is 3, and this is 4. So 4 is less than 5. So then it will, we are using the index notation or the index values to access these individual elements, and they will print the things only. We can also iterate through the objects of the class, just like, because we are considering that this one. So we say array value inside the array. So actually array value inside an array. So we are assigning a new property inside. So actually if you look at that, this one is this one here. Okay, so this cannot be accessed. And again, look at that, the length is still 4. The length is based on that, not the, because we are adding this property inside the array as an object, then it does not change the length property. Okay, so this is a property which is here, length is still 4, not 5. Uh, and then we are having these properties. We can loop through these values again. So if I'm using that what you can say that the index value, then I can only access these values. I cannot access this value cannot be accessed through this way. Why? Because the index value 0 1 2 3 4. So and the end we cannot access, so it will not print me the value in array. And if I want to access this value in the array, which is a property considering the array as an object, then we need to consider this thing, let I in array. So we are saying that whatever the properties names 0 1 2 3 value in array, it will consider all of them one by one For the first time, the array will be 0, I value will be 0, then it will become 1, then will become 2, then it will become 3, and then finally it will become value in array, and then it will print me the all the values. But if you are using the index notation, then we cannot access that property that we have created inside the array object, you considering it as an object or the class inside. Okay, so similarly, we also have the length property, which give me the number of element which exist in that array. And then we have toString, we can convert that if it is not converting that elements into a string where type. We have a join, we can join two different arrays together. Pop mean we are removing the last element in the array. Push mean we are adding a new element at the end of the array. Shift mean that remove the first and shift all the elements before. I mean, the index value 0 will be removed, the index value 1, whatever is at the index 1, it will come to the 0, 2 will come on the 1, and then so on. So it will move these, these blocks. So these are the different method which exists inside the JavaScript language, and then you can access them to perform different type of the operations on the array. And if you want to know more about these strings, then it is a link which is take you to that, and then to the documentation of the array in the W3 school, and then you can get more information about. We can also iterate through the for each using the array. So for each mean that it is a my function, and then it will say value index weight. So we are actually using these values, we are performing some informations, and then we are performing some calculations or the printing on the screen. We are adding number 2 inside it or something like that. It will print me something. But when we also have the map is something which can say that it is not only iterate through the values, but it also create a new array with the new values. For example, it will create a new array. For example, we are saying that numbers one dot map my function. So it will, whatever the value is coming in, it will multiply with 2, and then actually it will create a new array with the value 90 and then 8 and so on. So actually it will, number 2 will create a new what you can say that it also create a new array out of it. So in the for each, we are just processing them. We are going through, we are checking each element, and then we are doing some calculations, or we are doing some we are performing some actions on it. But when you say map, we are actually, it will return me an array of the same size, but of course with the with after the calculations or the info processing that we have applied on each element. Okay, so this is another array iteration. More information of the array iteration, you can click on the link and then you can go there. We can also search an array, we can also sort an array. We sorting mean we are making them uh, into the different orders. So these are up to this point. So any questions so far before we can jump to the new topic, which is the document object model. We have seen it, but we have discussed it, but let me give you more information about that. So any questions so far about these? We talk about the objects, we talk about the arrays, we also talk about the conditional statements, true values, false values, loops. All good? Look like good. Okay. So in the HTML, we have the DOM. HTML, we call it a document object model. It is a standard object model. We are considering that this document, actually it is in the global. You know, this everything is inside. This scope is global. Okay, and inside the global, we have this document. And inside the document, we have the HTML element. Inside the HTML, we have a head. So actually, it is the complete tree structure of all the elements which exist inside that document. Okay. So, I mean, if you remember, we say document dot get element by ID. Okay. So actually, if we have assigned, for example, here at this point, if we have assigned an id value to this a, I can direct, using this document object, I can directly access this element. I can change its href value, I can change its style, I can change the things that we have seen earlier when in the last lecture, and then we have seen in practically as well that we can go and change the values inside it. So actually this document object model is helping me to access those elements inside my document, and then we can access. So this is actually representing the global scope or the window. Okay, so this global scope is actually the window of the what you can say, the window of the browser in which we are showing this document. So this global scope is actually a window. Okay, and then if I say global scope, if I console it, actually it will show me something like this. So it will say window, then we have a self, then we have a document is the one part of this window, and then we have a name, we have a bs underscore start, bs and the boss and all. So all these location and blah 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 things, there are a lot of other things which are being there, but we are more concerned with this document because we want to access different elements which exist inside our document, and then we want to change them dynamically when the user interact with our with our HTML page, and that make our page more responsive to the actions of the users. Okay, so inside our window we have a document, and then inside the document we are trying to access. Window is a global scope, so we can write window dot document, or we can directly write the document. Okay, so we don't need to write that window scope inside the JavaScript code. So here's an example. We are say dom.js. So we are accessing the document, or I mean, we are trying to access that dom.javascript file, which we have created. And then inside we say log console.log document. So of course it will console those things over there. We have, and one thing is document. And inside, if you look at that, this HTML document is exactly the same that is written down here. Same, there is no difference. So actually it is a complete source of that document there. Okay, we can get an element. We already seen that. So we say get an element by id, which is a header dot text content. We are changing the contents of text inside it, and then it will okay. So I we have already discussed that in the practical session, that if, because if you look at that, we are saying this point here. Yeah, we are accessing that line, and then inside we have the h1, and then inside the h1 we have defined some heading, and then we have the id value. So now we are inside this dom.js, and then we are writing document.get element by id, which is header. So as you know that html is actually executing the lines, executing the code sequentially. So line number 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, when I convert the eighth line, actually it's jump into the into that dom dot JavaScript file. And then after that, yeah, after this line, we have written down this statement that document.get element by header, and then change the contents to the header contents. Okay. So now at this point, this document, this element does not exist in this document yet, because we have not loaded this document yet. And that's why we cannot access it. And when we try to access it before creating that one, then it will give me the error. And then we have seen that error inside our inside our practical session as well. So I hope that is clear. So if we want to overcome these problems, then we need to use these object events, which are document object model. Page has been loaded, button clicked, hover over, blur, and so on. So we have a long list of the events that we can access. So we have a page load, and inside the page load, if we say that once the page has been loaded completely inside the window, then we can go and access those elements. So we can write something like this. So this, which is a window, add event listener. We are adding an event listener which listen to this event load. Once the page has been loaded, it will execute this function. So once page has been loading of the page has been completed, then what we are doing, we are saying that header text is equal to document.get element by id, because now the page has been loaded. So now we can find this specific header, and then we can change the text content. We can get those values which are inside it. So actually it will give me back this if I do if I, it will give me back this header of the document value back at this point, and then we are saving that inside the header text. Okay, and then if you want to see the complete list of the doc events which exist in the DOM, then you can click on the list and then it will take you there. We can also have the on click event, so handle the on click event. So for example, if you can see that we have a label, we have an input, and then we have a button, and then inside the button I print an id value. We have to assign the id value to that one, and then after that what I did here, I say that whenever I'm clicking on that event, so we say add event listener load function event, and then we are getting that specific element, that button element, and then we are assigning this button, we are creating a button object, you can say that, and then we are assigning that to this variable button, and then say button dot on click. Whenever we are clicking on this button, it will execute this print function. Okay, so actually we are just trying to show that multiplication table on the screen. Yeah, yeah, that's what we are doing here. So if I do that, so we are assigning a on click event. So here's an example of that one. If I do that, you can see that we have the DOM, then we also have this paragraph, and then div and the paragraphs, and then we also have this the way we are going to print. So we can give the value something, and then when we click on the print button, table button, then it will actually print me that table for me. So definitely we will see that these things inside our what you can say that practical session, then you will be understand more. So the other thing that I want to the last topic or the last thing that I want to discuss is, you remember we have a pages, and then forms, and in the forms we have an action. So when we are sending the information from one page to the other, we can, on the other side, we can actually receive those information, and then we can process those information. So in this page, using the following, we will send the information to another page. First form, first form is, in this form we will get the get method, and that represent the response.html. So we give the information inside these variables like first name, last name, and then select the date of birth. When we can click on the submit, so here's the code for this form. So we are say, whenever we are clicking on this submit button, open that response page.html, and the method is get, which is a default method, we write it or not. And then here we are giving the label and the input, label and the input, label and the input, and then this is our submit button here, and that is the code which actually generate this specific form on our page. When we click on that, actually it will take me, if you look at that inside the because it's a get method, it has a first name Naif, last name Ali Majid, Al Majid, and then date of birth. So actually it will create, and then inside the response object, I receive those information and show those information as the table of that one. So in this way, actually I have used the bootstrap styling on it, and then we can access it. So if you look at that, we get these responses. So we have these values inside it. So this is the code for the response page. So here we say a div container, we have a response page, then we have a response table, then we have a thread, then we have tr, the first name, and then we have a body. Again, inside the body, I assign a id value, and then inside our HTML code or the script, we can say that we are getting the search values. We are getting the query string. What do you mean query string? Actually, this is the query string here. Okay, this come as a query. So we are getting that query string, and then we are URL parameters equal to new URL search parameter. This method is again coming from the JavaScript, and we can access those parameters from there. And then we are what you can say that this one, and then we are getting these different parameters, first name, last name, and then the date of birth. So we are, after that, we are select HTML string tr, and then tr, we are adding different what you can say that columns for each first name, last name, and date of birth. And then we are adding these HTML document, HTML string inside this here at this point here. So when we add it, actually it show me that specific table. This line is actually we are generating based on the this row we are generating based on the information which are coming from the previous form. Okay, so that is the end of our lecture today. Any questions so far? No questions? All
Okay.
good? So in the next session, inshallah, we will look at the practical part. So we will show you. I will show you how we can do it. Of course, I show you the code here, but I will show you how we can do it. All these things practically. So that's all. Thank you very much.